Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving deep into the world of Bitcoin today,
Yeah, Bitcoin.
using this excerpt called Bitcoin 101, comprehensive lesson. And basically, we're going to unpack the basics, explore its potential, its risks, and hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a solid understanding of what this whole Bitcoin thing is all about.
Sounds good.
It's like, imagine money went digital rebellious and kind of mysterious. All at the same time, that's Bitcoin in a nutshell. There's some pretty wild stuff in this excerpt. Did you know that there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, what? And get this, there's even a country out there that uses it as their official currency.
Yeah.
Wild, right? We'll get into all that and more so. Let's start with the basics. What is Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin is a digital currency, sometimes called a cryptocurrency, and it was created back in 2009.
Back in 2009. Okay.
Yeah, unlike the dollars and euros you're used to.
Right, the money in our pockets.
Yeah, exactly. Bitcoin isn't controlled by any bank or government.
Whoa. So no Federal Reserve calling the shots?
Nope, it operates independently.
Independently, okay.
Yeah, transactions are verified by a network of computers spread all over the world.
Wait a second, a network of computers? So how does that even work? How can you trust a bunch of computers to handle your money?
That's where the blockchain comes in. Picture it like a digital ledger.
Okay, ledger.
Yeah, constantly growing with every transaction that happens.
Every transaction.
Every single one, they're all bundled into blocks, and these blocks get chained together, hence the name blockchain.
Blockchain, okay.
And once a block is added to the chain, it's basically set in stone, can't be changed, can't be deleted.
So like if I sent you some Bitcoin right now, that transaction would be recorded on this blockchain forever.
You got it, permanently, and anyone on the network can see it.
Okay. I can see how that makes it transparent. But how does it make it secure? Like, couldn't someone hack into the system?
It's a really secure system. For a transaction to go through, the majority of computers on the network have to agree that it's legit.
So it's like a majority rules kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes it incredibly difficult to tamper with. It's like to hack Bitcoin, you'd have to outsmart and overpower a massive global network of computers. Good luck with that, right?
Right. Almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that makes Bitcoin special? Anything that sets it apart from, regular money?
Yeah. So one of the big things is its limited supply. Remember how I said there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoins?
Oh, yeah, that blew my mind.
Well, that's a huge contrast to traditional currencies.
Right, like dollars or euros?
Yeah. Governments can just print more whenever they want, but with Bitcoin, that's not possible.
Okay, so it's like scarce.
Exactly. And that scarcity, combined with growing demand, is a major factor driving its value.
Okay, starting to see why people are so excited about this. But how does this anonymity thing work? Like, if everything's recorded on the blockchain, can't someone trace my transactions back to me?
That's a good question. It's not completely anonymous. Yeah, your identity isn't directly linked to your Bitcoin address, but transactions can be traced on the blockchain.
So maybe not the best for secret agents then.
Haha, probably not. But it offers more privacy than traditional financial systems where banks and governments have access to all your transaction data.
Interesting. All right, so we've got this digital currency that's decentralized, secure, transparent, limited supply. Sounds pretty revolutionary. But how do I actually get some? How do I buy Bitcoin?
The most common way is through cryptocurrency exchanges.
Okay, so currency exchanges.
Yeah, these are online platforms where you can buy and sell Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
So like a digital stock market for Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Right.
You create an account, link your bank account or credit card, and you're good to go.
Okay, so I can just buy it like I buy stocks. What if I want to go full gold rush and try to mine some Bitcoin myself? Is that even possible for a regular person?
Technically, yes, but mining Bitcoin isn't what it used to be. It's become much more challenging. You need specialized hardware and a lot of energy to solve the complex math problems.
Really?
Yeah, it's not really practical for most people anymore.
So leave the mining to the pros. Got it. Are there any other ways to get my hands on some Bitcoin?
You could try peer-to-peer transactions.
Peer-to-peer.
Yeah, you're basically buying directly from another person, or if you have a business, you could start accepting Bitcoin as payment.
So the more businesses that accept Bitcoin, the more I can actually spend it on stuff.
Exactly, and that wider adoption can also influence its value. Which brings us to the big question. Why does Bitcoin have value at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's just digital code, right? Why are people willing to pay real money for it?
Good question. Its value stems from a few things. We've already talked about scarcity, that limited supply of 21 million.
Right. Right.
Just like with rare collectibles, as demand goes up and supply stays fixed, the price is bound to climb.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The
Yeah.
more people believe it's valuable, the more valuable it becomes.
There's definitely an element of that, but it's not just hype. Bitcoin also has utility. People use it for things like cross-border payments, online purchases.
Oh, so it actually has real-world uses.
Yeah, and the more people use it, the more valuable it potentially becomes.
Interesting.
Plus, there's the security of the network. The blockchain's design makes it extremely secure and trustworthy.
So it's like a trifecta.
Mhm.
Scarcity, utility, security, all of that contributes to its value.
Exactly. And let's not forget the growing recognition. Big companies are investing in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and some countries are even considering making it legal tender.
Wow. Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal.
Eh.
But before we get carried away, we need to talk about the risks.
Absolutely. It's important to understand the potential downsides before you jump in headfirst.
Totally. So what are the risks? What should people be cautious about when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, one of the biggest risks is its volatility.
Volatility.
Yeah, its price can swing dramatically, sometimes in a matter of hours or even minutes.
So it's not for the faint of heart?
Haha. Not exactly. It can be a risky investment, especially if you're not familiar with how cryptocurrencies work.
Okay, volatility noted. Anything else we should be aware of?
We'll dive deeper into the risks and potential downsides next time.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
So yeah, it's important to approach Bitcoin with, a balanced perspective,
Right.
acknowledging both the potential and the pitfalls.
For sure. So let's dive into those risks you mentioned. What are the things people should watch out for when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, like I said before, one of the most significant risks is Bitcoin's volatility.
Right, that price swinging.
Yeah, exactly. Its price can fluctuate dramatically.
Yeah, like how dramatic are we talking?
I mean, sometimes it can change within hours, even minutes.
Minutes. Whoa.
It's unpredictable, which makes it a high-risk investment, especially if you're new to the whole cryptocurrency world.
It sounds kind of like a roller coaster ride. What makes the price swing so much?
It's a lot of factors. News and media coverage can have an impact.
Okay, so headlines can move the price.
Yeah, also regulatory announcements, any new laws or anything like that.
Makes sense.
Tech developments, even just market sentiment, how people are feeling about Bitcoin at any given time, all that plays a role.
So it's kind of like the stock market, where emotions and outside factors can really drive the price up or down.
Exactly. And because Bitcoin is still relatively new, it's even more sensitive to those fluctuations.
Okay, volatility, got it. Anything else on the risk list?
Yeah, another big one is regulation, the laws around Bitcoin.
Ah, right. Governments are still figuring out how to handle this whole thing.
Exactly. It's a bit of a gray area still, and new regulations could pop up at any time, impact its use, its value, even its legality in some places.
So basically, the rules of the game could change at any moment.
Pretty much. Yeah, that adds a whole other layer of uncertainty.
Definitely something to keep in mind. Okay. What else? Are there any other risks?
We've also got security risks. Now, while the Bitcoin network itself is very secure because of
Yep.
the blockchain.
Right, that super secure digital ledger.
Right, but individual users can be vulnerable.
Oh, how so?
Hacking or theft, especially if they don't protect their digital wallets and private keys.
So it's like having a Fort Knox level vault. But if you leave the key lying around, someone can still get in and take your stuff.
Exactly. It's crucial to use a reputable wallet provider and enable those strong security features, like two-factor authentication, and never share your private keys.
Never show your keys. Got it.
Ugh.
Anything else?
Yeah, one more thing that's becoming a bigger concern is the environmental impact.
Oh, right. I've heard about that. Something to do with mining.
Yeah, mining Bitcoin uses a ton of computing power, which means it consumes a lot of energy.
So all those computers working to solve the math problems are basically guzzling electricity 24/7.
Pretty much. And a lot of that electricity still comes from fossil fuels, which contribute to climate change.
Not good, especially when the world is trying to go green.
Definitely a valid concern, but to be fair, the Bitcoin community is exploring ways to make mining more energy efficient.
Okay, good to know they're working on that. So we've talked a lot about the risks, but even with all that, there's still this huge wave of excitement around Bitcoin. Why is that? Why are people so optimistic about its future?
Well, Bitcoin represents a real shift in how we think about money and finance.
Right.
It challenges those traditional systems that have been around for so long.
It's like a digital rebellion against the establishment?
Yeah, kind of. People are drawn to that decentralized nature, the idea of having more control over their own money.
So it's more than just a technology. It's like a philosophy, a movement even.
Exactly. It's a vision of a more open and equitable financial system.
I can see the appeal in that.
Mm.
But besides the philosophical side of things, are there any practical reasons to be optimistic about Bitcoin's future?
Absolutely. I mean, look at its real-world applications, for example. It's being used for cross-border payments, especially in places where people don't have easy access to banks.
So it's like opening up the financial system to people who've been excluded before.
Exactly. It's a real game changer for those folks. Sending money across borders with Bitcoin can be faster, cheaper, and more efficient.
That's a real tangible benefit. Okay, any other examples?
We're also seeing businesses starting to accept Bitcoin as payment.
So that cup of coffee I buy with Bitcoin might actually happen someday.
It's already happening in a lot of places.
Wow. Yeah.
And that wider acceptance, that just makes Bitcoin more legitimate, more useful in everyday life.
True, true. What about this DeFi thing? It sounds like a whole new level of potential.
Yeah, decentralized finance, or DeFi, it's a huge area built on blockchain tech.
And what is that exactly?
Think of it like a parallel financial system operating outside of traditional banks.
Wow. So cutting out the middleman completely.
That's the idea. It lets people lend, borrow, trade, even earn interest on their crypto, all without involving banks.
That sounds both amazing and terrifying at the same time.
It's still early days for DeFi, but it has huge potential.
Okay, a lot to unpack there. I'm still wrapping my head around all this. Is Bitcoin really something that everyday people should be considering?
It's a valid question. Gotta approach it cautiously, but also with an open mind.
Right.
If you're interested, do your research, start small. There's no need to go all in right away.
Good advice. Good advice. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious about what's next for Bitcoin. Where do you see this whole thing going in the next few years? What trends should we be watching?
That's a big question. Predicting the future is always tricky.
Right.
But there are a few key things to watch. For example, will more countries follow El Salvador's lead and adopt Bitcoin as legal tender?
That would be huge.
Yeah, it would signal a real shift in global acceptance.
Right. What about those layer 2 solutions you mentioned earlier, the ones that make transactions faster?
Right. Those are crucial for Bitcoin's growth. They help address some of its limitations, things like transaction speed and fees.
Yeah.
They're like adding an express lane to the Bitcoin highway.
I love that analogy. Okay, so faster transactions, that's one trend. What else?
We're also seeing more institutional investment.
Oh, so the big players, Wall Street, they're starting to take Bitcoin seriously.
Yep, and that could have a major impact on its price and overall acceptance.
It seems like the Bitcoin world is changing so fast. Any final thoughts on what the future holds?
I think we're just scratching the surface. The next few years are going to be wild.
Okay, buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up, because this ride has the potential to completely reshape the financial world.
This has been so insightful, but I want to shift gears for a minute. We've talked about the tech, the practical stuff, but what about the bigger picture? How does Bitcoin change the way we think about money, power, society as a whole?
That's a great point. Bitcoin is more than just a tech thing. It's a social and political phenomenon.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It raises some profound questions about how our world works, the role of governments, the nature of trust, all that.
Okay, so it's time to get philosophical.
Exactly. In the last part of our deep dive, we'll explore those deeper implications of Bitcoin and how it could impact society.
Looking forward to it. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So we've covered a lot of ground, the tech behind Bitcoin, the potential, the risks.
Yeah, we've gone deep.
Now it's time to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the philosophical side of things.
Big questions.
Exactly. How does Bitcoin change the way we think about money, power, trust, all that?
It really challenges our assumptions,
It does. I got to be honest. I never really thought that deeply about what money actually is.
It's something we take for granted.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Just those bills in my wallet or the numbers on my bank statement, that's money.
But, the concept of money, it's evolved over time, right? We had bartering, gold coins, paper currency.
Yeah.
And it's always been tied to some kind of authority, a government or a central bank.
Right. They're the ones who say, this piece of paper is worth something.
Exactly. They control it.
Bitcoin, it throws all that out the window, right?
Yeah, it cuts out the middleman.
Decentralized, no central authority. So what does that mean for, the balance of power?
It's a big shift. For some people, it's about freedom. Economic freedom, individual sovereignty.
So they have more control over their own money.
Exactly. They're not relying on institutions that might not always have their best interests in mind.
Okay, I get that, taking back control. But some people are worried about that, right? Like, what happens when you take power away from governments and banks?
Yeah, there's a concern that it could lead to instability.
Chaos, even.
Possibly. It's a trade-off, right? Individual freedom versus systemic stability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough question. No easy answers there. What about other ethical issues? Anything else Bitcoin brings up?
Accessibility is a big one.
Oh, right. Will everyone be able to use and benefit from Bitcoin?
That's the question. Will it actually be a tool for financial inclusion, or will it just make existing inequalities worse?
Like, will it create a digital divide?
Potentially, we need to make sure everyone has access to the knowledge, the technology, the resources. Otherwise, it's not really a level playing field.
Totally. Access is key. And not just access to, like, the internet and stuff, but also education about how this all works.
Yeah, financial literacy is crucial. People need to understand Bitcoin, the risks, how to protect themselves from scams, all of that.
Otherwise, they could get burned.
Exactly. Education is key. Another interesting thing about Bitcoin is how it changes our concept of trust.
Trust.
Yeah, like traditionally, we trust banks, governments, they're the authorities.
Right. We trust them to handle our money.
But Bitcoin replaces that institutional trust with trust in the technology itself, trust in the blockchain.
So instead of trusting a person or an organization,
We're trusting math, code, a decentralized network.
wow, that's a huge shift from trusting people to trusting algorithms.
It is, and it raises all sorts of questions about how technology is changing our world, how we interact with each other, how we organize society.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Bitcoin really is more than just a currency.
It's a social experiment, a technological innovation, a philosophical challenge, all rolled into one.
Yeah, it really makes you question, like, what is money? What is power? What is trust?
Big questions.
Big questions indeed. This has been an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for, like, walking us through all this. I feel like I've learned so much.
Glad to hear it. It's a fascinating topic.
It is. And I think we've just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, to learn, to debate when it comes to Bitcoin.
It's a constantly evolving space.
Exactly. And who knows what the future holds? Maybe we'll all be buying our copy with Bitcoin someday.
Maybe so.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive, and a huge thank you to our expert for joining us and sharing your insights.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep learning. The world of Bitcoin is waiting for you. See ya next time.